And states' rights simply means we can do with our black people what we want to do with them. And this cannot function without this right here. It can't. Because if black people were asserting their rights under the Constitution and had worked their way into government, how could you undo that without violence? This person here is absolutely necessary in order to maintain white supremacy, because white supremacy is not based on any solid political theory. That's why it can't be engaged. That's why you can't have legislation to do away with hate. When people want the government, they'll take it. I want you to put this in your notes and do research on this. The Scottsboro Boys. What happened in the Scottsboro Boys incident? I'm not going to answer that question. I want you to answer that question. What about the massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma? What happened? And why did the massacre take place? What about Memphis, Tennessee? History is riddled with examples of how mob violence was used to undergird what it was that African Americans were doing. So, of course, some people want small government. Small government has always been a nuance for white supremacy. Because the smaller the government, the less entanglement that government, or less involvement government is going to have at the domestic level. And so when you have a violent uprising, black people didn't work their way into government through violence. We used the process. But this fella right here, he got all of the power that he had through the noose, through the lynch mob. I want you to put some words in your notes. We'll put it right here. Picnic. I wonder what a picnic was. A picnic was more of a ceremony than anything else. It was a ceremony that the Klan would use. They would just pick a Negro and lynch him for no reason. I want you to put this word in your notes. Convict leasing. Convict leasing to our viewers. What was convict leasing? Convict leasing was a system whereby black men, of course, were thrown in prison, thrown in jail for nothing. Alexander Crummell has a great essay on the conditions of the South and how penitentiaries and jail were shaping the consciousness of young black men. I used to listen to my father talk. My father and his friends talk. And one of the things that they used to talk about is how it wasn't anything for white cops to arrest them for nothing or to accost them for nothing. And they also said that it wasn't unusual for a black to go to jail for long periods of time without trial. Why? Because states make money off of leasing their convicts to big business for pennies on the dollar. That's what allegedly built the steel mills and the coal mines and the industry of North Alabama. When you go to the Civil Rights Institute Museum in Birmingham, before you go into the museum, they show you a video. You sit in a theater and a little video screen comes down. And they show you how the state of Alabama and other southern states used the inmate. See, during Jim Crow, the plantation was replaced by the penitentiary. The plantation songs were replaced by the penitentiary songs. And even the nice little cute little steps that the Black Greek organizations do, where did those steps come from? Where did those theatrical things come from? They came from prison culture, because black men were going to prison by the droves. And so where do the children and the wives of the men who go to prison, where do they go? They go to a place prepared for them called the ghetto. The ghetto was prepared, just like it was prepared for the Jews a century ago, a century prior in Europe. Take away, devise them of their resources. Take away their education. Take away their business. Take away their money and stick them off to theirself. Well, that's not anything new. But what is interesting is the fact that we see the rhetoric, the language that gave birth to this rising up again. And what is its impetus? What is its stimulus? The same thing that it was 100 some odd years ago. The possibility of black people moving out of that niche that some feel that they deserve to be in. Once again, this is Robert White coming to you from the topic and the theme, the resurrection of Jim Crow. This is an introduction. See you next time. God bless.